You know, people ask me all the time, if you can't hear, how can you play? And the only answer I've got is that someone forgot to tell me I can't do it. As I've gotten older and I've learned about cognition, about child development, that's one of my specialties, I find that too many children are told they cannot do something. They're given an excuse not to succeed. And I'm so glad that I didn't have that.
Profoundly deaf from childhood, Max seized opportunities and rose to the top of his field, earning 6 advanced degrees, including 2 doctorates. As a keynote speaker, widely published author and researcher, Dr. Max Chartrand offers audiences across the world a powerful message of hope. In middle school, Max was invited to audition for the Denver All-City Band.
They said, what would you like to play? I said, well, how about Mozart? They said, that sounds good. Mozart Concerto in A. So I tried out, got a letter in the mail a couple of weeks later saying you're in the band. For the All-City Band, we've got a guest conductor coming in, distinguished guest conductor from the New York Philharmonic. Went to the very first day on this huge stage. So I sat in the back, and then a kid came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder and said, is your name Max? They've been calling your name for the last 15 minutes to go sit up in the first chair. I went and sat up there in front, had the greatest rehearsal, and the director congratulated everybody in that first rehearsal, says everybody can leave now except Max. And I stayed behind and looked around to make sure everybody was out of earshot and said to me, who let you in? And I said, well, I came in like everybody else. I tried out. He says, you did? He said, play it for me. What'd you play? So I played Mozart's Concerto in A, which is about a first-year college-level piece, and played it flawlessly. And he says, well, by golly, you can play. But you're so flat on that C. He says, I don't know what to do about that. I said, flat? You mean that high C with the thumb? He said, yeah, that one. And I said, well, I didn't know that was a note because I can't hear it. And so he realized that he was dealing with a hearing impaired boy. And he says, well, why don't you try smiling when you get up there? Let's lay that again. See if smile when you get to it. And I did, and it went right up into pitch. He says, well, from now on, smile when you get to C. And I've done it ever since. At least I've tried it. Remember that. But it turns out that this man was none other than Leonard Bernstein, Philharmonic conductor.
This is just one of many inspirational true stories Max shares with his audiences. Whether on the big stage delivering a keynote or in smaller venues offering health and wellness programs, he connects with his participants in a unique way, not common in today's fast-paced, high-tech world. Many of the people he meets in his travels become long-time clients and friends.
Just about everybody has something holding them back. It doesn't mean that they won't overcome or they can't overcome it. Many do. Many people. In fact, one of my favorite things to say to my audience is that people can do extraordinary things under extraordinary circumstances. But the true secret to life is doing extraordinary things under ordinary circumstances and challenging themselves to overcome. It doesn't matter if it's a visual handicap or if it's because they were born in too much wealth and never had and were not expected to do much, or if they were born in poverty and had to fight for everything in just daily existence. Everybody has that power to do that, and I know that from my own experience, and I know that from my children's experience and those that I've helped over the years, clinically as well.
4 times each year, Dr. Chartrand picks up the director's baton and leads a group of nearly 30 musicians, almost all with some form of developmental delay, in free concerts for his community. The Casa Grande Express was formed to give students and adults like Max the opportunity to share in the joy of music, overcoming challenges and learning to think and work as one unit, maybe for the first time.
You know, I have a brother that's just under me 1 year, and I said, Zane, would you like my latest book? I gave him a copy of How to Get Your Health Back, which I'd written for consumers about how to navigate their health. They're taking care of themselves in spite of a system that sometimes holds them back and doesn't really get them well. Dietary changes and those kinds of things. And he said, my brother said to that, he says, I can't believe it, after all these years, here you're nearly 70 years old. I'm 70 now, but I was almost 70 at the time. And he says, you're still going out writing books. You're still doing these things. He says, I can't believe that you would do that. And when everybody else was retiring. And I said, well, I'll tell you the truth, Zane, I'm really just getting started. I see a lot of need out there. I see a lot of people who they're struggling. They don't know that they don't have to depend on others, that they can stand on their own 2 feet and they can overcome whatever challenges come their way. And if people knew the truth, most of the developmental delayed kids are able to go on and be the most successful adults of all, simply because they had to fight so hard as young people, and they forgot to stop fighting as they became adults and went on and grew and developed and overcame their handicap. So I would say that when you ask where the Doctor of Hope came from, I hear people coming up left to right after I speak, saying, you gave me hope. I've got a grandson. He needs that. I'm going to tell him what you said. And hopefully his life will change. Then I'll get a letter in the mail about 10 or 20 years later, and they'll say he's a veterinarian now. He's top in his field, which you would never know because he couldn't even read when he was in 10th grade. But now he's a top professional. And it's very gratifying to see those kinds of changes in people's lives.
If your organisation could use a good dose of help this year, Max is the only doctor you need. Visit drmaxchartrand.com and begin the process of creating your custom program.